tell me about how the Zoom experience was.
So I had never used Zoom before. I'd done like some Google meetings in the past, but I still wasn't quite accustomed to like, oh, I'm going to be on my computer and talking to people. But it was actually very easy. But you sent me that link and I just copied it and pasted it and clicked enter. And then I was like, oh, okay, it's already set up and there it is. Oh yeah, I can hear them and they can hear me. This is great. I really liked that it had different screen setups that you could choose, and so I chose one where I could see you but I could also see me, and so it was very, very cool to be like, oh yeah, there's a little picture of me in the corner. First, when we were first just logging on and everybody was, I suddenly had this moment of, oh, everyone can see me. But then when we were all in poses, like I'd look over and like everyone's just doing their pose. So then I was like, oh, well, it doesn't really matter. Plus, somebody had an adorable dog and that was super cute.
You don't get that in a regular yoga class.
So I have done yoga in the past, but I've never really kept up with it because it's just hard for me to like collect myself and all my stuff and then go someplace else and have to deal with like, oh, this other place and other people and then like bring everything back. So this thing that's supposed to be very restful and calming is kind of like a break in my day that makes it not as calm. And so it was really nice to just be like, I'm going to have yoga online today. So just like wake up in the morning, lay out my yoga stuff and put out my computer and then be like, oh, it's time to start, and then go over and do it. And like I said, just the whole idea that it was in my house and just a much less of a production than having to go someplace else was really nice.
Yeah, so there was ease of transportation.
Yeah, well, but also like you're in your own house, and I feel like sometimes when you go someplace else, you know, you don't know who else is there, and it's very easy to kind of try to measure yourself up to what other people are doing and kind of come up with like, oh, maybe this person's done it for a long time and I don't want to seem like I don't know anything about it. But when you're in your house and like the other people are just like these tiny little blips on a screen, it's like, oh, I'm in my house and I feel very comfortable.
Yeah.
I was surprised because, you know, in an activity that's so physical, I've never really done it before when somebody's just talking at you from a screen. And I was unsure of how that was going to work out, but it worked extremely well. You were able to just be like, oh, you know, think about this instead of this, because you could see what was happening with my body. I mean, this is an idea that I had that maybe you enjoyed it because you could see like on those little, oh, there's that person and that person and that person and that person. So you were able to just give a quick scan and be like, oh yeah, you need to do this instead. But I really enjoyed the poses that you chose weren't like super advanced. You weren't ever asking like, oh, now put this arm like way over here. And I'd go, I don't think my body works that way. Sometimes I've been to classes where they're like, okay, now do this pose, now do this other pose. And I'd be like, oh, I want to try that, but I don't quite understand how to get into that. So it was nice that you just sort of took one basic thing and then added on to it if you wanted, or you could just stay where you were. And I also liked the way that you drew attention to different parts of our bodies when we were in different poses. I thought that was really effective, especially with the online thing where you were able to just be like, oh, think about your ribs. And I'd be like, oh yeah, my ribs. And so that would change the way that I did a pose just based on you kind of prompting for different body parts. I thought that was really effective.